Have you ever wondered who Jesus Christ really was? I mean, beyond the Christmas stories, the Easter celebrations, beyond the paintings of a blue-eyed man with picture-perfect hair, beyond what your childhood Sunday school teacher might have told you. Who was this figure that literally split history into before and after? Was he a good teacher, a revolutionary, a myth, or was he something much, much more? If you've been searching for answers about who Jesus really was, not just the religious version, but the historical and biblical facts, then you're in the right place. Hey everybody, welcome to Faith Labs. I'm Adam, and our channel is all about exploring those big faith questions that many of us have, but sometimes feel too afraid to ask. I get it. Figuring out who Jesus really was can feel overwhelming. There's so much information, so many opinions, and sometimes it feels like you need a degree in theology just to get a straight answer. But today, we're gonna break it down simply, together, looking at what history tells us about what the Bible claims of who Jesus Christ really was. Let's start with what we know historically. And yes, despite what some internet forums might suggest, the vast majority of historians, Christians, Jews, atheists, and everything in between, they agree that Jesus of Nazareth was a real person who lived in first century Palestine. Think about it like this. Imagine you're walking through the dusty streets of a small Roman-occupied town called Nazareth. Around the year 30 CE, the air smells of cooking fires and animals. People are speaking in Aramaic all around you. And somewhere in this humble setting is a Jewish man in his early 30s who's causing quite a stir. We've got multiple independent sources that confirm his existence. Roman historians like Tacitus mention him, and the Jewish historian Josephus writes about him. These aren't Christian sources trying to promote a religion. They're just recording history. What do these sources tell us? That Jesus was a Jewish teacher who gathered followers, was considered a troublemaker by Roman authorities, and was executed under crucifixion by Pontius Pilate's authority. But here's where it gets interesting. If Jesus was just another failed revolutionary or a wandering teacher, and there were many in that time and place, why are we still talking about him 2,000 years later? What made him so different? Let's take this a bit further. The earliest Christian writings we have, letters from Paul that predate even the Gospels, they tell us something remarkable. Within just a few years of Jesus' death, his followers weren't just remembering him as a good teacher, they were worshiping him as divine. I find this fascinating. Imagine you have a respected teacher that you follow. They died tragically, and within a few years, would you be calling them God? Especially if you're part of a strict monotheistic religion like Judaism that spent centuries emphasizing that there's only one God? Something extraordinary must have happened to cause this dramatic shift in understanding. And this brings us to our key verse for today. It's from John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was good. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. Let's sit with this for a moment. John is making an absolutely revolutionary claim here. He's saying that Jesus wasn't just a man who achieved some kind of spiritual enlightenment or who was chosen by God for a special mission. He's saying Jesus was the eternal God himself, who took on human flesh and lived among us. When John talks about the Word, he's using a term that both his Jewish and Greek audiences, they would have recognized. For Jews, God's Word was his powerful creative force, the means by which he created the universe when he said, "Let there be light." And for Greeks, the logos, the Greek term translated as word, was the divine reason or ordering principle behind the universe. John boldly claims that the force, the divine principle, became a human being in Jesus Christ. It reminds me of trying to explain complex ideas to my little nephew. No matter how carefully I choose my words, there's still a gap in the understanding. Eventually, I have to get down on the floor and use his toys to show him exactly what I mean. In a much more profound way, that's what John's saying God did through Jesus. Got down on our level and communicated in the most direct way possible by becoming one of us. And this brings us to one of the most beautiful and mysterious aspects of Jesus' identity according to the Bible. He was fully God and fully human. Not half and half, not God disguised as human. Both completely at the same time. Think about what this means. The person who got tired, who felt hunger, who cried at his friend's tomb, who experienced the full range of human emotions. This was God experiencing life as one of us. Imagine you're the creator of a virtual reality world. You can observe it from the outside or even manipulate it. What if you could actually enter it as a character, bound by all of its rules and limitations, experiencing everything that the other characters experienced? That's a pale shadow of what the Bible claims happened in Jesus. But here's the craziest part of this story: why Jesus came in the first place. According to the Bible, Jesus didn't come just to teach or show us what God is like, though he certainly did that. He came on a rescue mission. Let me share a story that might help illustrate this. A few years ago, there was a cave rescue in Thailand that captured the world's attention. 12 boys and their coach were trapped deep in a flooded cave system. Sending instructions, it wasn't enough. Dropping supplies wasn't enough. What those boys needed was someone to come to where they were, someone who could guide them through the dark, dangerous waters to safety. The biblical claim is that humanity is trapped, separated from the life and relationship with God that we were designed for, well, because of our sin and our brokenness. And God didn't just send instructions from heaven. He didn't just drop spiritual supplies. In Jesus, he came himself to where we are to lead us home. This is why Christians throughout history have found Jesus so compelling. He's not a distant deity issuing commands from up above on high. He's the God who knows what it's like to be human, who experienced our joys, our sorrows, who knows what it's like to be tempted, to suffer, even to die. So what's all this mean for us today? How does understanding who Jesus really was change anything about our lives? Well, first, it means that God isn't distant or unknowable. If you want to know what God's like, look at Jesus. When Jesus shows compassion to the outcast, that's God's heart on display. When Jesus stands against hypocrisy and self-righteousness, that's God's character in action. And when Jesus stretches out his arms on the cross and says, "Father, forgive them," that's God's love made visible. Second, it means that your human experience with all its joys, sorrows, and struggles is something that God understands firsthand, personally. Whatever you're going through, Jesus has experienced human life from the inside. He gets it. And finally, it means that the central question we all have to wrestle with isn't just, was Jesus a good teacher, or do I agree with his moral teachings? The real question is, was who he claimed to be? Is he worthy of not just admiration, but my trust and allegiance? Here's a practical step. Take some time this week to read through one of the gospel accounts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. But as you read, ask yourself, if what this book is claiming about Jesus is true, that he is God in human form who came to rescue us, how would that change how I see my life, my purpose, my future? We started by asking who Jesus Christ really was. The historical evidence tells us he was a real person who lived, taught, and died in first century Palestine. But the biblical testimony goes much, much further, claiming he was and is the eternal God who became human to reveal himself to us and rescue us. This is the most revolutionary claim in all of human history, that the infinite God stepped into his creation, that the eternal broke into time, that the divine became human so that humans could share in divine life. You might still have questions, and that's okay. Faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting the one who does. And if Jesus really is who the Bible claims he is, he's worth getting to know. Hey, if you found this exploration helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the Faith Labs channel for more relatable answers to your faith questions. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video, which will be tomorrow. We do videos every day at 9 a.m. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I read every comment. Let me ask you, what's one thing that surprises or intrigues you about Jesus? Or what questions do you still have about who he is? I'm Adam. Thanks for spending a minute here with me. Remember, the most important questions in life, they deserve thoughtful answers. So we'll see you on the next one. Onward, and God bless you.